Welcome to West Hollow, a place where the night never truly ends. West Hollow is a town shrouded in darkness, where the sun's rays rarely penetrate the thick, perpetual gloom. Nestled deep within a valley, it's cut off from the rest of the world, as if the mountains themselves conspire to keep it hidden. The forest presses in from all sides, its trees like gnarled fingers reaching towards the town, creating a natural barrier that few dare to cross. The air is always heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a constant reminder of the life and death cycle that thrives in the shadows. An unsettling silence hangs over West Hollow, broken only by the rustling of the wind through the trees and the occasional distant howl of an unseen creature. The townsfolk are a solitary bunch moving through the streets like shadows themselves, always wary, always watching. They keep to themselves, their faces etched with a weariness that speaks of long-held secrets and burdens too heavy to share. Their eyes, dark and haunted, dart nervously towards the shadows that seem to cling to every corner, as if expecting something to emerge at any moment. Outsiders are not welcome here. The townsfolk's cold stares and unwelcoming demeanor make it clear that strangers are viewed with suspicion and fear. They say the town holds a darkness that it doesn't want to share, a malevolent force that has seeped into the very soul of West Hollow. The history of West Hollow is as murky as the river that winds its way through the town, its waters dark and foreboding, hiding secrets beneath its surface. Whispers of strange occurrences and unexplained disappearances have plagued the town for generations. Tales of people vanishing without a trace, leaving only questions and fear behind. But these are more than just rumors. They are the echoes of a past that refuses to be forgotten, a past that continues to cast its long shadow over the present. They are warnings passed down through generations that speak of an ancient evil that lurks in the shadows waiting for the right moment to strike. The people of West Hollow live in constant vigilance, knowing that the darkness is always watching, always waiting. This is a place where the line between reality and nightmare is blurred, where the past and present are intertwined in a dance of shadows and whispers. Welcome to West Hollow, where the darkness is not just a backdrop, but a living, breathing entity that shapes the lives of those who call it home. The story started subtly. People claimed to see fleeting shadows at the edge of their vision, dark figures that vanished when approached. They spoke of a feeling of being watched, of cold spots in their homes, and of disembodied whispers carried on the wind. Most dismissed these as tricks of the light or figments of an overactive imagination, but fear has a way of taking root. Then the stories became more frequent, more detailed. The shadows grew bolder, lingering longer in the darkness. People began to describe the figures as tall and slender, their forms shifting and swirling like smoke. Their eyes, glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light, were said to pierce the soul. The whispers intensified, becoming chilling murmurs that seemed to emanate from the very walls of their homes. Fear began to grip the town like a vice. Parents forbade their children from playing outside after dark. Doors were bolted shut, and windows were covered. The once vibrant community became a ghost town after sunset, its inhabitants too terrified to venture out into the darkness that now seemed to pulse with an unseen menace. James Carter was a skeptic. He prided himself on his rational mind and unwavering belief in science. To him, the world was a series of logical events, each with a clear cause and effect. A man of science and logic, he scoffed at the tales of shadows and whispers that had plagued West Hollow for generations. These stories, passed down through the years, were nothing more than the product of overactive imaginations and the human tendency to fear the unknown. He believed there was a rational explanation for everything. Ghosts, spirits, and other supernatural phenomena were simply myths, easily debunked by scientific inquiry and reason. That is, until the night he came face to face with the darkness. It was a night that would forever alter his perception of reality. James was returning home from a late meeting. The streets were unusually quiet, the usual hustle and bustle of the town replaced by an eerie stillness. A dense fog had rolled in, blanketing the town in an eerie silence. The fog was so thick that it seemed to muffle all sound, creating an almost otherworldly atmosphere. As he approached the wooded path that led to his house, he felt a prickle of unease crawl up his spine. It was a feeling he couldn't quite explain, a sense that something was not right. The air grew noticeably colder, and the fog seemed to swirl around him as if alive. It was as though the fog had a mind of its own, moving with an almost deliberate intent. That's when he saw it. A figure barely discernible through the thick fog, standing at the edge of the trees. A tall, shadowy figure standing motionless at the edge of the trees, its eyes glowing like embers in the darkness. The sight was so surreal that James wondered if his mind was playing tricks on him. James froze, his breath catching in his throat. He had never felt such a profound sense of fear before, a fear that seemed to reach deep into his very soul. He blinked, expecting it to be gone, a trick of the fog and his tired mind. But no matter how many times he blinked, the figure remained. But it remained, its form shifting and swirling like smoke on the wind. It was as if the figure was made of the very fog that surrounded him, constantly changing yet always present. For what felt like an eternity, James stood there, paralyzed by fear, as the figure stared back at him. The glowing eyes seemed to pierce through the darkness, locking onto him with an intensity that was almost unbearable. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, it was gone, melting back into the shadows as if it had never been there at all. The fog seemed to swallow it whole, leaving no trace of its existence. From that night forward, James Carter was a changed man, his skepticism shattered by the chilling encounter. He could no longer dismiss the stories of West Hollow as mere superstition. The experience had left an indelible mark on him, a reminder that there are things in this world that defy explanation. James began to delve into the history of West Hollow, seeking answers to the questions that now haunted him. He pored over old books and documents, searching for any clue that might explain what he had seen. He spoke to the locals, listening to their stories with a newfound respect. Each tale, once dismissed as mere folklore, now held a kernel of truth that he could not ignore. The more he learned, the more he realized that West Hollow was a place steeped in mystery. The shadows and whispers that he had once scoffed at were very real, and they had a history that stretched back centuries. James Carter's encounter had opened his eyes to a world beyond the realm of science and logic. It was a world where the unknown lurked in the shadows, waiting to be discovered, and he was determined to uncover its secrets no matter where the path might lead. The disappearances started soon after the sightings began. Strange lights and eerie sounds were reported by the townsfolk, but no one could pinpoint their origin. It was as if the forest itself had come alive, whispering secrets and hiding shadows. The first to vanish was Sarah Walker, a young woman known for her kind heart and infectious laugh. She was a beloved figure in the community, always ready to lend a helping hand or share a kind word. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through the town. She was last seen walking home from her evening shift at the local diner, her path taking her through the heart of the woods that bordered the town. It was a route she had taken countless times before, never once feeling unsafe or threatened. The search parties found no trace of her, no sign of a struggle, no indication of where she might have gone. They combed through every inch of the forest, calling her name, hoping for any clue that might lead them to her. But the forest remained silent, offering no answers. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. The townspeople were left with more questions than answers, their imaginations running wild with possibilities. Was it an accident, foul play, or something far more sinister? Then, a few weeks later, Old Man Hemlock, a grizzled fisherman who had spent his entire life on the river, disappeared. He was a fixture in West Hollow, known for his tall tales and weathered face. His absence was felt deeply by those who knew him. His boat was found adrift, its nets cast wide, but there was no sign of the old man. The river, usually so full of life, seemed to hold its breath, as if it too were mourning his loss. The townsfolk gathered by the riverbank, whispering prayers and hoping for a miracle. The townsfolk whispered that the river had finally claimed him, but a deep unease settled over West Hollow. The disappearances were too similar, too strange to be mere coincidence. The once peaceful town was now shrouded in fear and suspicion. The police were baffled. They had no leads, no suspects, no explanation for how two people could simply vanish without a trace. They interviewed everyone who had seen Sarah and Old Man Hemlock in the days leading up to their disappearances, but no one had any useful information. They had no leads, no suspects, no explanation for how two people could simply vanish without a trace. The case files grew thicker, but the answers remained elusive. The detectives worked tirelessly, but each day that passed without a breakthrough felt like a step further away from the truth. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the hope of finding Sarah and Old Man Hemlock alive dwindled. The town held candlelight vigils, praying for their safe return. But as time went on, those prayers turned into quiet acceptance of the worst. The town was in mourning, but beneath the grief, there was a growing sense of dread. Parents kept their children close, and no one ventured into the woods or near the river alone. The once vibrant community was now a place of shadows and whispers. Something dark and sinister was at work in West Hollow, and no one knew who or what would be taken next. The fear was palpable, a living, breathing entity that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. The town waited, holding its collective breath for the next disappearance, knowing that it was only a matter of time.